Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the new Boyle Sports app. Bet €10 and get a free Now TV Sports mobile month pass, showing exclusive darts and Premier League action.
Yeah, you're very welcome along to the Friday betting show. I'm joined in studio by Blanche from Boyle Sports and Diallo from Off the Ball and News Talk's Team 33. Over the next half an hour, we're going to preview the Premier League action. We're going to try and break down what to look out for this weekend. Now, we're not going to go into as much details as, say, Leeds manager Marcelo Bielsa would, but we'll try our best. As always, you can get in touch across all the different social channels. And if you do get in touch over the next half an hour, the best comments will be in with a chance of winning some great prizes with thanks to Boyle Sports. Remember, always gamble responsibly, only bet what you can afford. And before we get into this week's offers, Leon, just to remind folks as well, if you bet €10, you get €40 and Now TV membership for a month on offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. That is for new customers. Right, let's get into it. Let's get into the offers. We're going to start with the first one. Should be up on screen now in just a minute. Manchester City and Tottenham, both to win by 2 or more goals. Was 11-4, now 4-1. So Man City away to Huddersfield, Tottenham away to Fulham.
Yeah, ordinarily it's still a very decent enhancement, 4-1 from 11-4. But Tottenham obviously are without their two main goal scorers this year, Son and Harry Kane, who got injured. Fulham cannot defend to save their life, and maybe it's a chance for Llorente. He was quite prolific in his Swansea career. I'm assuming he'll get the start. They've still got Eriksen, they've still got Ali. They still have creative players in the terms of Lucas. The guy's name is missing me at the moment, who can score. He cuts in off the left, Lamela. So they do have goals in them. So it's a decent enhancement, 4-1 from 11-4.
Yeah, I suppose from an Irish point of view, we're looking at Troy Parrott.
Yeah,
he's not even 17 yet.
Yeah, we were hoping he'd get a run in the FA Cup game.
Yeah.
But he didn't. But maybe now, with these two guys gone, it wouldn't be great to see him even on the bench.
On the bench, yeah.
Get that little bit of Premier League experience. They think the world of him at Spurs, so hopefully he can continue his rise through the ranks.
Yeah. Doesn't look like they're going to recall Vincent Janssen from the reserves anyway.
No, I think he's safe enough there.
Yeah, so Fulham against Tottenham, we mentioned there. So the next offer is Tottenham to win, both teams to score. Was 9-4, now 3-1. Now, this actually happened when they met at Wembley earlier in the season. Spurs won, both teams scored, and you just wonder, like, with Ranieri, we haven't really seen the impact. I just kind of feel with Ranieri, he's inherited a team that played a certain way, and now he's trying to get them to play his way.
Yeah, he's trying. I mean, I'm sure he's worked tirelessly at trying to keep a clean sheet, trying to get a defensive unit to work together. Unfortunately, I think the personnel he has at his disposal is just not good enough.
Yeah.
And maybe reverting back to a little bit of that free-flowing football that Fulham were capable of. We definitely saw it in the Championship last year. I think both teams are well capable of scoring here. Even though David De Gea had a fantastic second half, United had enough chances to score more than one goal. So I think Fulham at home, it's a London derby, not the biggest London derby, but I like that. I think both teams will score.
Okay, and then the last offer, Liverpool and Manchester United, both to win by 2 goals or more. Was 2-1, now 3-1. Both sides, strangely enough these days, in action at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Both sides at home. Liverpool at home to Palace, United at home to Brighton. 2 games you'd expect them to win, and I suppose the offer here is you're expecting them to score plenty of goals.
Yeah, 2 or more goals. I think United on a crest of a wave at the minute. You create your own luck, but I think they'll beat Brighton. Brighton disappointed me last week against Liverpool in that they just never really tried to score. They just went for a basic 0-0 draw. They nearly got it.
Yeah.
But Liverpool at home against Palace. Liverpool, they got the win last week, but they need to improve the performance. I think at home they'll create more chances. But Palace on their day can be quite tricky, as I think they're the last team.
April 2017. Christian Benteke scored twice.
Christian
Bold.
What I remember, Christian Bold is 2014 at Sellers Park. But what I remember that day was Sacco was on loan at Palace, but he was injured. He was on the sideline. Benteke scores. He does a handshake with him, and the look on Sammy Lee's face. The assistant for Palace, obviously a bit of a Liverpool legend. if looks could kill that day
Yeah,
for Sammy
yeah.
Lee.
Well, that was the final nail in Sacco's coffin. He was gone from that day for sure. But look, it's a decent enhancement. I think Liverpool at home, I'm expecting them to play a lot better than they did last week against Brighton.
Yeah, probably suit them playing against Palace as well. It'll be a bit more free-flowing. Before we actually get into preview this week's action, let's look at last week's bet. And I have to say, Cardiff absolutely banjaxed almost all of us, three of us. John's bet. John Duggan was in the hot seat last week. He just went for Cardiff to beat Huddersfield 6-5. It was a 0-0 draw, and Cardiff were absolutely atrocious in the game. Huddersfield were awarded a penalty, but then it was rescinded during the game when Lee Mason, the referee, consulted with his assistant. Kev's bet, Liverpool and Brighton to draw, Chelsea to win. So obviously Liverpool winning that banjaxed his bet. Chelsea won. As I kind of thought, though, Chelsea wasn't as comfortable as some people might have thought. I went for Burnley and Cardiff to win. Burnley won. I was about to say they won without getting a shot on target, but in the meantime, the big news today from the Premier League is Jeff Hendrick has been credited with the first goal. So technically they did have a shot.
It was going in terms of the direction, so it's fair
because
enough,
the stat last week was Burnley managed to win a game without getting a shot on target. But they beat Fulham. Cardiff obviously screwed me with the 0-0 draw. And Leon, you had Cardiff and Man City to win over 2.5 goals in the United Tottenham game.
Yeah.
David De Gea did the damage for, and then obviously Cardiff as well.
Yeah, I mean, like 11 saves, excuse me, in the second half. Tremendous goalkeeping performance. I don't agree with some of the comments that were made that Spurs hit every ball at him. To be able to use your feet like that in such close proximity of the striker, he's a world-class goalkeeper.
But is it not a bit like the goal scorer? He only scores tap-ins, you know?
Yeah.
Sort of. But the thing with De Gea as well, he was always in the right position as well. I think it was like the Lloris goal where he was, I think it was pointed out in Match of the Day, Lloris was actually wide of his post. De Gea stayed inside, and it just meant it was easier then if he throws out the leg. It's
brilliant.
Easier to stop
like
this.
you know, we always hear that Ederson is the best keeper with his feet, but so as De Gea proves that he uses his feet in a very different way.
Different way. Look, I mean, he's a class goalkeeper. If you're a Spurs fan, you'd be disappointed with that you didn't take at least 2 or 3 of those chances because they were clear-cut chances. But United, they were brilliant in the first half. I thought United, they got the tactics spot on. Pochettino changed the Spurs formation second half, and as he said himself, it was some of the best football he's ever seen his team play. They just didn't put the ball in the back of the net. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's look ahead to this weekend's games. We're going to start with the Arsenal-Chelsea game, 5:30 tomorrow, and there's a lot of pressure on Arsenal at the moment. Raf, the wheels seem to be coming off because Sven Mislintat, you know, he was brought in, he was going to be the head of recruitment. And since Gazidis has left now, it just seems that Mislintat is now surplus to requirement. He had a say in all their signings. Some have been good, some not so good, but you know, you can understand his frustration where there's no money. So it'd be like the equivalent of me sending it to the shop, Raf, with a shopping list, but giving you no money. So I don't know what you come back with, magic beans maybe.
Well, potentially. I don't even want to guess. I don't even want to guess what you know which shop I always go to in the morning anyway. We won't go into that. But there's problems off the pitch with Mislintat, of course. As you said, he'd been brought in with quite a lot of power once Wenger was leaving. But then it's another restructuring, and that's an issue off the pitch. But then on the pitch as well. I mean, since the derby seemed to be this great moment for them. But then in the 8 games since, they've only won 3 and can't keep a clean sheet apart from 1 game against Huddersfield, which is mad.
Yeah, Leon, it's not good for Arsenal when you consider they went 22 games unbeaten in all competitions, and there was a lot of games during that run where you thought they were lucky to get the win, but what it did was it raised expectation, and very quickly the expectation is gone now, and the lads on Arsenal Fan TV are busy again.
They are very busy again, but it's a massive game in terms of United should have won, and they are really closing in on that 4th place spot. And it puts even added pressure on both sides going into this contest, knowing that a draw probably is the best result for Man United. Chelsea will be looking at this. They are favourites, 13-10. They'll be looking at this game, however, and thinking, look, we're better at the back. If we can keep a clean sheet, we could definitely come away with 3 points here. I just wonder as well, though, with Arsenal, Aubameyang and Lacazette, they were on fire at the start of the season. I thought there was a chance last week against West Ham where Lacazette should have passed. He didn't. He went for it himself. Maybe he's looking, he needs a goal more than Aubameyang needs a goal. I don't know how this one's going to go, Phil. I'd probably sit on the fence and go for a draw at 5-2. Arsenal are a big price at home, 21-10. Their home record has been quite good. Their away record, again, we see the deficiencies that is Arsenal. I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go for a score draw. Probably, 5-2 for me. I'll take the draw.
Yeah, Raf, if you're an Arsenal fan and you're watching them recently, you're thinking, okay, we're not really creating chances. We've got this lad, Mesut Ozil. He's whatever people say about him, he knows how to pick a pass. He can create goals. Yet he's either left out of the squad or he's sitting on the bench. We know he commands a huge wage every week, but this is just something that's.
Yeah, you'd think the pragmatic thing would be to actually use them, and the same with Ramsey instead of just leaving them on the bench. Like, they're two very talented players. I know they're a bit inconsistent and always have been, but you'd think the way like Ozil's assist record since he's arrived is unbelievable. You'd think they'd use him. Yeah,
Chelsea obviously talked about it a lot, Leon, on this show, that when Hazard stopped scoring, that there was going to be issues for Chelsea. They got the win against Newcastle last week. There's talk of Higuain. It looks like it's going to happen because Morata just isn't up to it physically. His confidence is shattered as well. Giroud just doesn't strike as a player that Sarri wants. Higuain scored 36 goals in one season when he played under Sarri at Napoli. Hasn't been great of late. No. But sometimes a player comes in and he has a relationship with a manager and he can get things done. He won't mind the physicality. Can Chelsea create enough chances for him, though?
I think they do still have plenty of creativity, Phil. I think, you look at Hazard, you look at Pedro, you look at Willian. Ross Barkley, for a little bit of a period, was creating chances. But I think with Higuain, I think Sarri will basically set up for him. It will be basically, we'll play the way we played at Napoli because we'll get our number 9 involved in positions where he can score. Giroud going back to his former club, I'm sure he'd love to start this game. And maybe he will get a chance to start because Higuain won't be done in time. So, I don't know, with Chelsea, they're missing something. Obviously they're missing a number 9, but I don't know whether everything is as harmonious as it's trying to be painted, that picture. I think there is problems at Chelsea. I think if Sarri doesn't get Higuain, there'll be even more problems at Chelsea.
There's the Kante-Jorginho problem as well, with Jorginho being played in that deeper position, which can work against a smaller team. But Kante, as much as he's actually gone forward and scored a few goals, you'd still feel like you're not getting the best out of him. Yeah, it's very strange.
Trying to start attacks. And I thought what has worked well, though, is Jorginho. Obviously, Spurs did it very well at Wembley this season, where they just put Dele Alli on him and he didn't get a sniff. But Newcastle tried to do the same last week with Salomon Rondon. But then David Luiz then becomes that creator. Yeah,
because he has that in his locker.
He set up the first goal for Pedro with that brilliant pass. And that's one thing he can do. And, he gets criticised because sometimes he doesn't have the best game defensively. But, defending nowadays is all. There's a bit more to it than just
it's playing over the back. Although I think he's got better as well this season in terms. He seems to be in terms of concentration. It seems to be an improvement. So maybe we'll see that continue. And what age is he now? 30, 31.
Yeah. What are you thinking tomorrow?
I think a score draw, but maybe more of a 1-1. Actually, I think generally. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned the pressure there, Leon, because we expect Manchester United to beat Brighton, and then they're only 3 points behind Chelsea. And they'd be 3 ahead of Arsenal. I'm sure United wouldn't mind if Arsenal beat Chelsea because they'll see they're a better team than Arsenal, but they're trying to reel in Chelsea, who still have to go to Old Trafford. United should have beaten them at Stamford Bridge this season. It's just amazing going into the game that the last few weeks, how Solskjaer has just put a smile on everyone's face. Even Mourinho was on TV there yesterday. He's out in Qatar and you just remember how miserable things were. Even just listening to him, if he's never back in the Premier League, the Premier League will be a better place. He was great in his day, but it just shows the impact that him leaving the club has had on United.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even the tea lady is happy. Yeah. And there's been reports come out that even just the whole atmosphere around the club, Ferguson. There is stories, maybe he's definitely, I think Ferguson is definitely helping Solskjaer. Yeah. He's definitely helping him get the best from what he has at his disposal, because there's no doubt about it that United, we've been saying it all year, all season, that they have attacking players. It's just letting them play, letting them go and do what they can do. But I was impressed with Solskjaer, the way he set up last week against Tottenham in the first half. Yes, Spurs were better in the second half, we all know that. But the way he played Lingard, Martial and Rashford, and the way they interchanged, Spurs, and they played a lot of balls over the top to turn the Tottenham Hotspur back four. So I'm sure he's getting plenty of help from Ferguson. They were very close as manager and player. But just United at the minute, they're basically playing without fear.
Yeah.
They're just having a go. And I think as a supporter, if you do follow them, that's all you can expect. But they are putting in the work rate. And you saw what it meant to them getting that victory at Wembley last week. There was a togetherness.
Yeah.
They are together. They're playing for one another. They're playing for Solskjaer. They're playing for the jersey. And that's what we said in the early part of the season. It doesn't matter if you don't like your manager. Get out there and have a bit of pride. A lot of them didn't turn up. I'm not putting it all on Mourinho. I put a lot on some of the players when they were playing for Mourinho. They basically just down tools. But now there's a happiness, there's a togetherness. They will beat Brighton. And for any team now, from now till the end of the season, I think United are going to be a match on their day. They're quite capable of putting it up to anyone. They remind me of Liverpool when Klopp first came in. That there were still problems. They still will give up chances. There's no doubt about that. But on any given day, they can beat any time.
Yeah, I'd
any
say
team in the Premier League.
also say that they've a much better squad than Klopp inherited.
Absolutely.
Like if any Liverpool fans want to go to that first team sheet of his first game against Spurs, the Liverpool starting 11, it's vastly different now. Raf, obviously Paul Pogba was the player that fell out of favour with Jose Mourinho. He's been instrumental in how they've performed in the last few weeks. Some people will say he was lucky to stay on the pitch, but just the goal that he set up for Rashford, and even in the lead up to this game, it's something that Solskjaer said after the game last week was happiness.
Yeah.
Like, football really can be a simple game at times, and if you're going into an environment where you're happy, I understand what you're saying, Leon, about players downing tools, but if you have a manager that constantly criticises you,
it
would just chip away at you.
And certain people, like Pogba, clearly comes across as a happy-go-lucky character. I think he needs that, not a strict disciplinarian kind of school teacher, but maybe the spare geography teacher who comes in from time to time and lets you do whatever you want. That's exactly what he needs. And as you said, the ball to Rashford was unbelievable, but he's always had that in his locker, and it's starting to be expressed a little bit now, which is good.
Yeah, so we don't give Brighton any chance here, do we?
No, I don't.
Terrible away record.
Terrible away record. And just last week, I understand you're against Liverpool, but I was expecting a bit more at home. They'll go to Old Trafford. I'm sure they'll set up the exact same way that they set up against Liverpool. But you would expect United to maybe win by at least 2, maybe even 3 goals. I do anyway.
Yeah, and Glenn Murray stopped scoring as well, which I think I've noticed more in my fantasy team than actually looking at the score sheets. But it's a bit of an issue for them because he was the one carrying them slightly at the start of the season.
Okay, so that game is at 3 o'clock, at the same time Liverpool and Crystal Palace. Now, the interesting thing, obviously we mentioned it briefly there, that Crystal Palace are the last team to win at Anfield. Roy Hodgson as well, unbeaten in all 4 Premier League games as a visiting manager to Anfield. I can remember they beat Liverpool 1-0 when he was West Brom manager in 2012. Liverpool fans won't have many happy memories of Roy Hodgson from his time there. But this is a tricky one, Leon.
It is a tricky one, and I was looking at Palace last week just in the highlights, and they did create plenty of chances. I'm sure they're still wondering how they didn't come away with anything from that game against Watford. But Liverpool, Alexander-Arnold will be missing. Matip will come back in, and it'll either be Milner or Fabinho at right full. There's a little doubt about Wijnaldum as well, so I think Milner will probably play right full, and I think Fabinho will be back in the middle of the park, and I'm a huge fan of his, Phil. I think if he's in the middle of the park, Liverpool are a better team. I think we saw that when he came on against Man City. He's growing into the role. He seems to have everything in his locker. He can tackle, he can pass, he can shoot. Like, he has a lot going for him. And Robertson just signed a new 5-year contract. There's a lot of things going right for Liverpool at the minute. It is a tricky game, but you pointed out the last time they lost was to Palace. Anfield has become a fortress once again, and I'd be amazed if Liverpool don't win. I think getting over the line against Brighton last week, it was a horrible performance, but they got the victory. And again, you could see what it meant to them at the full-time whistle to get the 3 points, to get back to winning ways after losing the City. The Wolves game I wouldn't look too much into because it was the FA Cup. I'd be surprised if Liverpool don't win. I just think, Phil, they're not conceding goals.
Yeah.
And when you have that in your locker, they're always capable of scoring.
And Palace don't create a lot. I mean,
Yeah, but
since they beat City in that game 3-2,
well,
they've only scored 3 goals in the next 4 games.
Now,
So.
and one of them was probably goal of the season, and it's gonna be hard to find a better goal than the Townsend strike against City. But you know, if you're a Liverpool fan and you're a bit apprehensive about this game, the reason surely would be if Milner or Fabinho, whoever is playing right back, is going up directly against Wilfried Zaha, that has to be a bit of a concern. Obviously, Klein has gone to Bournemouth. Some Liverpool fans surprised by that. At the time, probably not too surprised, but then when the Alexander-Arnold news breaks, then they're thinking, why didn't we hold on to Klein? But Jurgen Klopp said the guy wanted to go.
Yeah, and I mean, since that back injury he suffered, he's been barely involved, and sometimes if you've got that kind of, I guess, fledgling fringe kind of player who's there, perhaps not happy, maybe it's better to just get rid of them.
Yeah,
and
that's interesting
there's
as well.
opportunities for younger players as well.
Yeah.
There's the young Dutch lad who came in,
However,
and we've obviously a young Irish defender there as well that we'd love to see, Masterson. So
However, actually got sent off in an underage game there against Brighton for a foul on Aaron Connolly. So he was kind of brought crashing back down to earth. But the Camacho is probably ahead of him in the pecking order. But
as a right full,
The thing about the way it is, the way the title running is going, though, Leon, you said like a draw feels like a defeat, though.
Absolutely. I think, especially against sides, with all due respect to Crystal Palace, you're expected to win. I don't see Manchester City slipping up against the lesser teams from now till the end of the season. It'll be the big games. It'll be for Liverpool, the next kind of really big one is West Ham away on that Monday night. They've got Palace at home and Leicester at home.
And Bournemouth as well.
And Bournemouth at home.
After the West Ham game.
After the West Ham game.
And then it's United.
And then it's United. In an ideal world, and I think if Liverpool want to win this league, they've got to get 12 out of 12. That's how critical it is now, because going to Old Trafford, they could easily lose that game.
Yeah.
And they haven't been great away from home at Old Trafford under Klopp. So that was the first time they beat Manchester United was at home in Klopp's tenure as Liverpool boss. But I think Liverpool will win. City have got Arsenal and Chelsea coming up at home back to back. Yeah, you might say, look, they'll beat Arsenal. Arsenal no good away from home. Chelsea will be tricky because they'll set up really tight. But it is, you're right, there's not that many games now where you're looking, you can't be afforded to be dropping any type of points, especially at home against Palace, against Leicester, against Bournemouth. That has to be 9 points. And then you've got that tricky Monday night game away against West Ham. Yeah,
and the interesting thing, Raf, actually, if Liverpool don't win tomorrow, it means by the time they play Leicester, which is on Wednesday week, because there's FA Cup the following, not obviously next weekend, it would actually be a good chance Liverpool will be in second place going into that Leicester game, because City play Huddersfield on Sunday, and then the Tuesday they're away to Newcastle. 2 games you expect them to win. So, you know, Liverpool going from 7 points clear and going to the Etihad thinking, you know, things are looking good. In the space of a few weeks, they could be in second place going into a home game against Leicester, and Leicester have beaten City and Chelsea.
Yeah, Leicester are really inconsistent, but they're, as you said, Chelsea and City they've beaten, and they've always turned up in the big games. It's against little teams that Leicester struggle against. Liverpool, the margin of error since that Etihad game has become so tight, and we know City have been in this position before. They've won the league. Liverpool are not used to it, so psychologically, especially being the hunted rather than the hunter, it can be a different proposition to deal with as well. Yeah, it's. I think we saw in December as well just how quickly things can change. I mean, we think